Is it possible that sometime in the future we will be trading using currencies that don't belong to any country? What would this mean for countries that have weak currencies? Well, I'm here to talk all about it, and I'll be talking about it while I do my makeup. Now, before we jump into the potential of future currencies, let's talk about how currency evolved into what we use today. Long ago, before we had dollars or Bitcoin, people traded using the barter system, which was basically an exchange of goods. So if I wanted pears from you and you had apples, I would exchange my pears for your apples. Now, this wasn't always very efficient because people traded with what they had, and it was hard to find an appropriate measure or exchange for different items. For example, if somebody had cattle and they were trading with someone who only had grains, it was hard to find what an even exchange would be or look like. So to solve this problem, people turned to commodity money. So things like cattle and grain were assigned a specific value. Now, this made trade much more straightforward and easy, but it didn't last forever. The next major leap of currency happened in the 7th century BCE, and it was the creation of metal coins. And now this was all good and great until people started to feel the burden of carrying around a lot of metal, especially if they were carrying it around in large quantities. And then entered China, who developed the paper money during the Tang Dynasty, and that completely revolutionized how people exchanged goods. The use of paper made money easier to transport and transactions more scalable. Now fast forward to the 19th century, the gold standard was introduced, which linked the value of money to gold. And that is how people were able to assign a value to their paper money. They would go into banks and get a certain amount of gold in exchange for that paper. So President Nixon in the late 20th century permanently terminated the gold standard, or the ability to convert the US dollar to gold. And this was because as the global economy grew, the demand for dollars was also really high, and the US was printing about 4 times the amount of money than they had gold. So essentially they were like, we're not going to have a tangible or tradable value behind our currency anymore. Instead, we're going to tell you what the US dollar is worth, and the whole world is just gonna have to comply. And the whole world did comply. And this was because their economies were so dependent on the US dollar. Now let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in learning about how that came about. Now moving on to today's currencies, our currency is still backed by the fiat system, which, by the way, fiat literally translates to arbitrary, which means not specified and essentially meaningless. And our currencies are not backed by any physical commodities. And now we're entering a stage where we don't even have a physical currency. And not only that, they are not even backed by a single government. So what does this mean for countries that don't have strong currencies? Well, to understand that, we must first understand how the current monetary system affects those countries. So as you probably already know, most third world countries have either been colonized by the French, the British, or the Spanish, or anyone in that region. And even though these countries have gained their independence, their currencies are still tied to their former colonizers. Now, currency is a way to maintain control of these countries. For example, the CFA franc literally stands for the franc of the French colonies in Africa. And this currency was created in 1945, but it still circulates among 14 different countries in Africa. Now, the introduction of foreign currencies displaces indigenous currencies, which undermines the country's local economies. Because just like the US, the French can say 1 euro is equal to 700 of your CFA francs, and I have no commodities to back that, but it's just what I say, and that's how it is. Now you may be asking me, like, wait, aren't these countries independent? Like, why can't they determine their own currency's values? And I would tell you, yes, they are independent and they have their own leadership and even their own banks, but both the leadership and banks are controlled by the French, and the French have veto power over them. So if the Central Bank of West African states says that they want to increase the value of their currency, the French can come in and say that's not happening and shut it down. And not only that, the French can demand 50% of the country's foreign exchange reserve, and that's exactly what they've done. However, with the rise of cryptocurrency exchange, some countries are finding a new avenue of trade. Since cryptocurrencies are decentralized or not backed by any government, the countries that have currencies that are ruled by their former colonizers can now trade with currency that is not ruled by their former colonizers. Now, this gives them more control of their economy and reduces the influence of these foreign powers. Cryptocurrency also serves as a protection against inflation, especially those with a limited supply like Bitcoin. For example, a country like Nigeria, which has faced high inflation rates before, now has a citizen citizens turning to store their cryptocurrencies as a way to protect their assets and preserve its value. Crypto also reduces the time and money it takes to send money across borders, which is great for countries that rely heavily on payments from citizens abroad, like El Salvador, which has made Bitcoin a legal currency, or they legally recognize Bitcoin as a currency. And crypto also benefits citizens around the world that don't have access to traditional banking systems. And finally, the innovation of cryptocurrencies themselves allows for countries to create more economic opportunities surrounding the crypto industry, which we see in places like South Africa, which has regulated cryptocurrency, increasing consumer confidence in it, and creating new job opportunities in the sector. So what does this all mean for us now? So as a decentralized currency, crypto is completely independent of central authorities. Just like early forms of commodity money, it wasn't the government that decided the value of this commodity or commodities, it was the traders. Now in the past, the introduction of new currencies was often tied to colonial expansion or control. And today, some people describe crypto as a digital colonization. However, this type of colonization is not about pushing for control. It's more so about pushing for a system that crosses borders without ties to one or two central powers. And instead of using military or political force, this system is driven by voluntary adoption and technological innovations. The level of accessibility of crypto allows for people who have access to internet connection to participate in the global economy in ways that we've never seen before. And this helps regions that don't have a traditional banking system or they don't have access to one. And as volatile as cryptocurrencies are, they're not just about investment opportunities. They also challenge traditional structures. And the innovation in the crypto space is extremely rapid, from the emergence of crypto trading platforms to crypto forex markets, to crypto casinos, to crypto news podcasts, and to crypto stocks becoming a part of mainstream investment portfolios. Now, with great potential does come great challenges, and it's definitely not a flawless system. However, the impact of cryptocurrency today suggests that it has potential to completely revolutionize the way things work. And we are already seeing some forms of change today. So that is all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know in the comments what you think the future of crypto holds. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to read more about this, as always, all sources in the comments.